G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. Another good week in the books. And with a plateau in our price movement that we've come off the back of January, huge January, sort of to be expected, a little bit of a slower start to February. I still think there's a little bit left in this run. Not much, but there's a little bit left. There's been a weird amount of sort of odd news coverage and some interesting comments made by some, traditional finance guys. I'm going to play some of that stuff today, and you can make your own opinion on it. But it's certainly interesting to hear when Bitcoin their response. When Bitcoin has a big month, they don't like it. So we'll start with old mate Charlie Munger. The guy's 99. He shouldn't be getting covered in the news, in my opinion. You're not operating at a high level when you're 99. I don't care who you are. No one is operating at a high level at 99. It's just not possible. So I understand Charlie is set in his ways against Bitcoin. He's probably not going to change now. And quite frankly, there is no reason to give a shite what Charlie says. Just let the media try to FUD you as much as they can, and you just hold your Bitcoin position happy as Larry. Another interesting set of takes this week came from Ray Dalio, famous hedge fund investor from Bridgewater Capital. Obviously been very successful over the bull market years of the 90s and 2000s, where he basically normalized the 60-40 portfolio. And that obviously doesn't work anymore. The 60-40 is dead, long dead. And Ray, if you listen to Ray here, I'm going to play this clip. Ray, he's very close to getting Bitcoin. I just don't quite understand why he won't just take the leap, the next step. Basically, he's saying the answer is Bitcoin here, but he's saying it's not Bitcoin. And, I don't know. I just can't understand why they refuse to accept the information and the knowledge and what it is and everything else. But listen to Ray, see what you think. He's very close, Ray. Very, very close.
Curious, crypto curious.
Okay.
Where has anything changed for you?
Just to everybody, let me state what I believe about crypto with Bitcoin, and what I've pretty much always pay. I think it's been quite amazing that for 12 years it's accomplished this, but I think it has no relation to anything. Okay, in other words, it moves, it has no relation. It's a tiny thing that gets a disproportionate attention. The value of Bitcoin is less than a third of the value of Microsoft stock. You could go into industries, biotech and many other industries are more interesting than Bitcoin. It's not going to be an effective money. It's not an effective storeholder wealth. It's not an effective medium of exchange. But we are in a world in which money as we know it is in jeopardy, right? We are printing too much, and it's not just the United States, all the reserve currencies, what's going on in Euroland, what's going on in yen. And so in that world, the question is, what is money and how's that going to operate? So when we look at something like China's renminbi, and then you take the digital renminbi, I think you're going to see that become more and more a thing. So when things start to open up in an evolutionary way, people are going to start to say, where is my safe storeholder wealth? And as you have China denominate more of its trade in renminbi, then naturally those who are going to hold renminbi, if Saudi Arabia sells oil in renminbi, and then buys things from China in renminbi, when they get it, they're going to hold more renminbi. It's going to be a higher percentage of their. And so I think the question over the next number of years is really, what is money, not just as a medium of exchange, but a storehold of wealth?
That sounds like a argument for Bitcoin of sorts.
Or for some digital
Bitcoins?
Yeah.
No, I think if you want a digital currency, you have to deal something different. I don't think that the stable coins are good because then you're getting a fiat currency again. I think that what would be best is an inflation-linked coin.
Right.
In other words, something where basically you would say, okay, this is going to give me buying power. Because every individual wants, what do they want? They want to secure their buying power, if you want to save. Now, if you put it in Bitcoin, it goes like this. Who knows what happens?
Right.
If you put it into something, the closest thing to that is an inflation index bond and so on. But if you created a coin that says, okay, this is buying power that I know I could save in and put my money in over a period of time, and then I can transact in anywhere, I think that would be a good coin. So I think you're going to see probably the development of coins that you haven't seen that probably will end up being attractive, viable coins. I don't think Bitcoin is it.
So although we're in a interest rate rising period of time, there's a little bit of uncertainty, we've had a bit of a bounce, people are feeling positive. The January outcomes are really, it turns out, a function purely of easing, loose monetary conditions. And this chart shows it perfectly. This is the world, let's just say, let's not go through them. This is the global liquidity index, which you can build yourself in TradingView. You can see what you have to create there on the top left. But the world is easing. They have loose monetary policy, and they have sort of since December 2022. So it's no surprise then that the markets are going up and Bitcoin's going up, because that's what happens when there's money around. It has to go into things. So, I don't know. It's really hard to call. Jerome Powell wants 2% inflation. That's a long, long way away. Interest rates will continue to rise. Australia is in the same boat. They're miles behind the 8 ball. Miles behind. And Phil Lowe, he's going to have to pump up the interest rates badly. The housing market is at its fastest decline in history in Australia. People are in denial. We're going to come down further. We've got a long way to go. If you're looking to buy a house, I've said this now for 6 months. You lowball, and you lowball hard, 30% plus under the asking offer. It's a funny place out there at the minute. And 2023 is just going to continue to be difficult, I think, on all fronts. ARC put out this great research piece every year, and this is their thoughts for the year 2023 and moving forward. So their sort of future outlook on things. And you can see that they start with a base case current situation for certain assets. And one of those is Bitcoin, of course. Cathy Wood is a big Bitcoin proponent. And this is a really nice chart they've put together. Very simple to see, easy colors. I love it. But what you can see here is that we have passed, or we're tapping on the 200-week moving average, and we have crossed through the 200-day moving average. Now, 200-week is what we really want to get through. We want to do an open and a close on the upper side of the 200-week, probably on a daily, preferably on a weekly, but let's start with the daily first. And I think that's currently sitting at around 25-ish. So I don't know. I kind of feel like we're going to push into that zone. There's a lot of air above it, so I don't know where it ends. But this week coming is going to be a pretty important week, I think. We may have one last kick, and then we're going to have a proper consolidation. So we could already be in the proper consolidation for all I know. We may go back down to 21 and sort of settle down for a little while and find our feet and move again. But you can't expect too much after a 40% month, I don't think. But interesting to see some of their ideas about Bitcoin. Let's hear from Cathy in general about some of her forecasts for Bitcoin. They're pretty wild, but they're always lovely to hear. She's been right on a lot of things and wrong on a lot of things, but I think over time she's probably been more right than wrong. So it's certainly worth listening to Cathy.
Last year was a terrible year for everything crypto. But if you think about what happened, it was the centralized, opaque players who went bankrupt. FTX, Celsius, 3 Hours Capital. And what did we see from Bitcoin? Bitcoin is completely decentralized and transparent. It started because of 0809, the lack of transparency in the traditional financial services ecosystem. And I remember when we did our research, and Art Laffer, I mentioned him. I mentioned him the first time he was on your show.
Yep.
He took us through what Bitcoin meant to him, and it was, wow, Art. This is a rules-based monetary. It's a rules-based digital monetary system, and it's global, and there's no human intervention. It's very disciplined. It's mathematically metered to top out at 21 million units. Well, in the last year, the last 3 years, the responses to COVID, the fiscal and monetary responses that, in many countries are causing hyperinflation and, fiscal crises. We're seeing protests and riots all over the place. Well, where do these people go for an insurance policy against an implosion in their purchasing power and wealth? It is in something like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an insurance policy, and it is an insurance policy for everyone against confiscation of wealth.
She certainly is very bullish, and in this report, the Big Ideas report that we were just discussing, you can see here her bull base and bear case price targets for Bitcoin for 2030, which isn't too far away now. That's a couple of halvings, and so 25, so 24, 28, 29 will theoretically should be our next proper bull year after our 2025 bull year. Assuming everything goes the way it has, that's certainly not to be a lock in anyone's mind. But if we're on the trajectory we're on, there's a lot of positive stuff happening, and there's no doubt about that. But Cathy here suggests, based on a lot of really good analysis of where the money's going to come from and how much of each market Bitcoin can take. I think these are pretty reasonable. So her bear case is 258K in 2030. Her base case is 682K. And her bull price is 1.48 million. Now, these sound pretty big numbers, and they are, but there's a lot happening in the space, and it's not going to take too many more people to realize that there's no supply. It is frighteningly scarce, and it's very hard to get your hands on these things. And if just a few more people, like Ray, say, want to get an allocation or, like 0.5 of the entire network, this thing is going to rip, and 1.48 probably is in the realm of possible. It's just going to be really interesting to watch. I don't think there's going to be a more entertaining and a more exciting and a more volatile place to put some of your funds and watch the action. Don't get caught up in the alts. Yes, some of them are going to go crazy high, but a lot of them are going to crash. Most of them are going to go to zero. But Bitcoin is going to be enough. It's going to be enough upwards volatility to satisfy you, I believe. So yeah, hopefully Cathy's right here. Loving the bull case. That's a big number. 1.48. Wow. Really interesting stat here. Now, this goes sort of into Cathy Woods's price targets. When you think about this, 8 billion people in the world. There's about 65 million millionaires, proper millionaires, not asset, like this is not an asset millionaire like every Australian. Proper millionaires, about 65 mil. There's only 2 million Bitcoin available, estimated, as in like that's available to buy from exchanges. And then we've also got obviously future supply, which is, not much as well. I don't know. There's just going to be a big kick at some stage. And there's under 1 million addresses that hold over 1 Bitcoin. So that's a very small amount. So if you hold 1 Bitcoin or more, you are in a very exclusive club. It's incredibly exclusive. It's hard to It's hard to believe how exclusive this club is. And, people are going to want to continue to get into it. It's just what has happened over time. So look, let's keep our eye on these charts. Glassnode will continue to give us the data from their node, but it's an interesting time in the Bitcoin market. It never ceases to amaze how incredible Bitcoin is, and it hasn't missed a beat through all of this chaos that we've experienced over the last couple of years. And people continue to adopt it. It continues to make headway with no one helping its cause. No one is helping its cause apart from the evangelists who own it. It's gotten to a stage now where something catastrophic is going to have to happen for it to fail, I think. It's always going to be around. As Ray said, it's always going to be around, and it's had a very impressive run. So I think it's really important to just consider again, and I need to stress this again, how scarce it is. You're going to soon enough have millionaires trying to get some. You're going to have more companies like MicroStrategy companies trying to get them. There's millions of companies that size, not millions. There's hundreds of thousands of companies worldwide that size that will end up wanting to put this on the balance sheet, because what else can they do? You got certain countries like Lebanon debasing their currency 90% overnight. You've got inflation everywhere. It's just a no-brainer for people. You've got emerging markets people needing Bitcoin more than ever because they can't even access their own funds. They're living under dictatorships and authoritarian regimes. You're going to have sovereign states needing to put this on the balance sheet because there is no doubt that energy will be transacted in Bitcoin in time. That it has to be, because it's the only true asset or true measure that you can price things in. It is. You can't price things in printed dollars anymore because one country can print them and then another country can't. So sort of a bit of a funny thing to do. And on top of that, all of the sovereign nations that have a central bank that can produce their own funds, they can literally print money to buy Bitcoin. I mean, I just don't... It's sort of insane when you think about it, how high and how fast this thing could go up. It doesn't... Now we're in the exponential phase and, we're in big number territory. I don't know. There's going to be a worldwide rush FOMO phase. I just don't know when it's going to happen, but it is going to happen, and the price is going to go absolutely insane. All right, this is a bit of a longer clip, but I'm going to leave you with Michael Saylor. He's always a pleasure to listen to. His insights are excellent. He is big on the Lightning Network at the minute, and his company is pushing it hard, which I love. There's a lot of optimism and development opportunity there for everyone to make Bitcoin work best for 8 billion people. Thank you for watching. This has been a quick one, lots of videos. That's just the way it is today. I really appreciate you sticking around and watching. Got any comments, put them below. I'll do my best to respond. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Stay well. Bye for now.
Joining us now to discuss MicroStrategy co-founder and executive chairman, Michael Saylor. Michael, great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Martin.
All right, so we're also coming off the heels of MicroStrategy's earnings after the bell yesterday. I do want to start there. You did report a loss, which was a surprise to the street, but it's tied to, it was this digital asset impairment losses tied to the way that Bitcoin and losses in Bitcoin are accounted for. Walk me through, with paper losses now hitting something like $1.3 billion. Does this change your strategy around Bitcoin and Bitcoin acquisition?
No, it doesn't change our strategy. I mean, the losses are a function of the indefinite intangible accounting treatment. And of course, an auspicious development in the industry is that FASB's taken a position that they're going to move toward fair value accounting. So eventually, we'll be able to mark our Bitcoin assets to market. We're enthusiastic about that. MicroStrategy is a way to invest in the digital transformation of money. And we're a gateway to the macro and crypto economy, allowing investors to either go short, go long, or trade the volatility. So our strategy is to buy and hold Bitcoin. And the key for us is to be consistent, transparent, and responsible in pursuit of that strategy. And we're unique in that regard.
Yeah. That being said, you did sell some Bitcoin. I realized tax loss harvesting at the end of last year. Would you plan to sell more if need be?
Well, we're always considering ways that we can take advantage of this multi-billion-dollar asset. And as you know, there's volatility and there's some unique tax treatment. So in that case, we were able to generate a $34 million tax loss, and we were able to carry it back against taxable gains. You know, we look forward and from time to time we may see opportunities, but we're fairly prudent and responsible in considering those things.
Let's talk a little bit about tech, because MicroStrategy is really essentially two companies in one. Holding the Bitcoin, which we'll talk more about in just a moment, but also business intelligent enterprise software company as well. Continuing to see some resilience in that part of the business. One of the things we've discussed in the past is how the Bitcoin part of the business has helped to feed or even strengthen the business case for the software part of the business. Does that continue given the fact that Bitcoin, and I realize we've had this rally in the last couple of weeks, but it's down so dramatically from the highs just less than a year and a half ago?
Well, it's been great for our company. Our employee turnover is at an all-time low. So I think it's good. It's good for our shareholders. They've enjoyed great returns. It's great for the employees. It's great for the customers. Ultimately, the big idea here is that money is technology that allows us to transfer economic energy through time and space. And we're seeing and living through a digital transformation of money. Everybody wants to move assets at the speed of light, friction-free, 24/7, 365. MicroStrategy's Bitcoin strategy is just a way to invest in that. And the enthusiasm over Bitcoin is really billions of people on the planet that want to move their money faster and more frequently, and they're chafing at the restrictions of the 20th century analog finance economy.
So how are you continuing to propel that argument and potentially monetize it at MicroStrategy? And I ask that because I know you stepped aside as CEO last year, and part of the reason was to be able to focus more on this type of integration and on this type of new concept.
The most exciting thing going on right now in the digital monetary world is Lightning. Lightning is a layer 2 open protocol for moving Bitcoin transactions in a split second for a fraction of a penny. In essence, Lightning is money over IP. And if you think about the world as it changed after TCP/IP and moving data over IP and then voice over IP, Lightning promises to allow millions of companies to provide transactions in real time with billions of consumers. MicroStrategy is actually developing MicroStrategy Lightning, our own enterprise Lightning offering. And we're going to allow CMOs to offer Lightning rewards or Bitcoin rewards, like a universal frequent flyer program, to hundreds of thousands or millions of their customers, all of their employees, all of their prospects at the speed of light off of a website. And so we're very enthusiastic about that.
And you're betting there's demand for this?
Yeah, you know, like right now, companies spend billions of dollars on digital marketing. They give it to Google, they give it to Facebook, and they spend that money on ads in order to get people to come to their website. What if you could just give the billions of dollars in money directly to your customers and your prospects, and you cut out the advertising? It might create a much less toxic, much more constructive environment. To do it, you need micro payments. You need to be able to move money at the speed of light, friction-free. You can't do it with 20th century credit cards. They're too expensive, they're too slow, they're too kludgy, there's too much friction. So what Bitcoin offers is micro transactions that can fundamentally change the way you market, change the way you build your products. And of course, you know, if you live in Africa or South America and it's Saturday afternoon, you know, the banking system is not working for you, right? Bitcoin and Lightning is a monetary system that works for the entire world and never gets turned off.
Yeah, so what do you say when Charlie Munger from Berkshire Hathaway earlier this week publishes an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal and says, quote unquote, a cryptocurrency is not a currency, not a commodity, not a security. Instead, it's a gambling contract with a nearly 100% edge for the house, entered into a country where gambling contracts are traditionally regulated only by states that compete in laxity. And obviously, the U.S. should now enact a new federal law that prevents this from happening.
Well, his criticisms of crypto aren't totally off. There are 10,000 crypto tokens, which are gambling, and I sympathize with him on that matter. But Charlie and the other critics, they're members of the Western elite, and they're continually prodded for an opinion on Bitcoin, and they haven't had the time to study it. If he was a business leader in South America or Africa or Asia, and he spent 100 hours studying the problem, he would be more bullish on Bitcoin than I am. Lebanon, Argentina, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Venezuela, they all illustrate the plight of the common man, and there's no solution better than Bitcoin. So I really think that, the Western elites, they haven't had the time to study it, but I've never really met someone with an incentive living in the rest of the world that spent some time to think about it that wasn't enthusiastic about Bitcoin.
That being said, it certainly seems like everyone's taking the time right now to study the implosion of the cryptocurrency space overall in general that we've seen over the past year, and certainly marked by the situation with Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX and Alameda just a couple of months ago. It's been a black eye on the industry more broadly. I want to get your thoughts on that and what it means in terms of potential regulation, at least here in the U.S., and whether you now see that painted with a very broad brush that will include Bitcoin.
The crypto meltdown was, it's painful in the short term, but it's necessary over the long term for the industry to grow up. This industry has some good ideas, like digital currencies and assets moving at the speed of light that are unstoppable, and a digital commodity that can't be debased. And it also has a lot of entrepreneurs that implemented those good ideas in an irresponsible fashion. What it needs is adult supervision. It needs the Goldman Sachs and the Morgan Stanleys and the BlackRocks to come in the industry. It needs clear guidelines from Congress. It needs clear rules of the road from the SEC. The crypto meltdown has punctuated the problem, has educated everybody on it, but also it's underscored the idea that it's time for the world to provide a constructive, transparent framework for digital assets so that we can move the financial system out of the 20th century into the 21st century.
Now, you do work with Silvergate Bank. It's issued loans to MacroStrategy, which is your subsidiary that focuses on Bitcoin, collateralized by Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin. Will you continue to do business with the bank, given the fact that, in addition to the headlines today, that it is in the midst of a U.S. fraud probe over the FTX Alameda dealings, we have seen what was essentially, based on filings, a run on that bank?
I think they've handled themselves admirably, given the stress of the situation. And yes, we will continue to do business with Silvergate. The institutions that were improperly constructed collapsed: the Alamedas, the FTXs, the Voyagers, the BlockFis of the world. But in fact, Silvergate was a responsible bank. They were able to meet their redemptions. And if you consider the loan terms we have with them, we're nearly 4x over collateralized by, 25% loan to value, the irresponsible crypto banks, we're doing under collateralized loans. So I think they do banking the right way in a responsible fashion, and they're a good citizen for the ecosystem.
Michael Saylor, always appreciate you coming on and your insights. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.